The conversation between Lu Fan and the Guardian was still ongoing. The demon's voice was low, yet laced with temptation. Once again, it made an offer to Lu Fan, "Join me, and I shall grant you the power of level 150. But Lu Fan's expression remained unchanged. He placed not the slightest trust in the creature's words. He neither gave his assent, nor did he offer a refusal. He simply continued to stare at it in silence. Seeing this, a flicker of impatience flashed in the demon's eyes. It issued a command in a heavy, resonant voice. "Now, surrender yourself to me." Still, Lu Fan remained silent. His gaze remained fixed upon the ancient being standing before him, even as a storm of thoughts raged within his mind. A level 150 ancient deity. Am I truly so helpless before it? Involuntarily, he clenched his fists. Or perhaps, is this merely a ploy to intimidate me? The very next moment, Lu Fan dispelled his dragon form and reverted to his true self. He descended gently to the ground. Upon witnessing this scene, the monster's gaze immediately shifted toward him. Then, a smile of satisfaction spread across its face. "Ah, a mortal!" Its booming voice resounded. "You turned out to be far more intelligent than I had anticipated. Your ability to grasp the situation is truly impressive." Lu Fan studied it intently. Doubt was still clearly visible in his eyes. A few moments later, he posed a direct question. "Will you truly grant me limitless power? And are you genuinely capable of protecting me from the other ancient gods?" The monster laughed without a hint of hesitation. "Yes, absolutely." There was a deep confidence in its voice. "You are truly fortunate, for you are the very first human to have succeeded in reaching this place. Until this day, no one has ever managed to reach this sanctuary." Then it slowly continued, "As long as you serve me with absolute loyalty, I shall continue to bestow new powers upon you." A strange glint appeared in its eyes. "You shall become the first true servant of the abyssal realm in this world." Hearing this, Lu Fan stood in silence for a few moments. Then, in a soft yet incredibly clear voice, he asked, "Service? You mean I must serve you? In other words, it is your will that I remain subservient to you?" The monster's smile widened further, then its voice suddenly turned cold and terrifying. "Offer up sacrifices, so that I may evolve into my true, complete form." A glint akin to hunger flashed in its eyes. "Any entity possessing immense life force shall suffice to satisfy my needs." Then he issued an even more dangerous command. "And if you encounter any other ancient gods," he spoke with a sneer, "those so-called codfish, then eliminate them before they even awaken." For a brief moment, the entire atmosphere seemed to freeze. Then he uttered his final words, "Kill them, every single one, in my name." Upon hearing this, Lu Fan was left completely stunned. Sheer disbelief was clearly reflected in his eyes. A few moments later, he asked in a hushed tone, "Wait, do even the ancient gods wage war against one another? And do they actually kill each other?" The demon chuckled softly, as if he found the question utterly trivial. "Naturally." His booming voice reverberated throughout the entire region. "Did you imagine that the selection of the God King could be decided without bloodshed? Without annihilating one another? How else could the true ruler be determined?" Lu Fan's brows furrowed. He immediately fired off his next question. "God King? Just what exactly is a God King?" A peculiar glint appeared in the demon's eyes. Then, in a low yet pride-filled voice, he began to speak. "Ah, that is a truth that short-lived mortals cannot easily comprehend. We, the ancient gods, are immortal, eternal. Once we have fully awakened, we assert our dominion over all living beings." His voice grew even deeper. "We devour life. We absorb their power as our own, and we continue to do so until only the ancient gods remain in this world." The air suddenly felt heavy. Then he continued, "And when the final hour arrives, that era, which you mortals might call the Age of Cataclysm, the surviving gods battle for the sole throne, the throne of the God King." Pausing for a brief moment, he emphasized his final words, "And the one who emerges victorious earns the right to usher in the next era." Hearing this, Lu Fan felt as though he had been struck by a sudden shock. His expression turned grave. "Wait." For the first time, there was palpable unease in his voice. "What exactly are you trying to say? Are we standing on the threshold of a new era right now?" Then his gaze suddenly turned sharp. No, what you really mean is you are planning to destroy the entire world? The demon nodded without a shred of hesitation, as if he were merely confirming a self-evident fact. Precisely. His voice was imbued with a chilling tranquility. The destruction of this world shall be wrought by the hands of us, the ancient gods, and whoever ultimately emerges as the God King, he alone shall create the next world. Lufan's breathing grew heavy, almost involuntarily. But the demon was not finished yet. He continued, and yes, this world, too, came into existence in precisely the same manner. The world of this current era is the creation of the previous God King. Upon hearing this, Lufan sank deep into contemplation. Countless events from the past began to swirl through his mind. Meanwhile, the dragon demon continued his exposition. The laws of this world, its system of power, its societies, castes, and races, even the very framework of life's existence. His voice grew steadily heavier. Everything, yes, absolutely everything, was ordained by the God King. Lufan remained silent for a few moments. Then he posed a direct question. Very well. Then tell me this. Who was the God King of the previous era? His gaze fixed directly upon the ancient deity. Do you know him? The ancient deity remained quiet for a few moments. Then he shook his head. No, I do not know who ultimately ascended to the throne. His voice grew faint. Even before the great cataclysm of the previous era, I had already been slain. Therefore, I never learned who eventually became the God King. A glint of contemplation flickered in Lufan's eyes. He immediately fired off another question, I understand. But this system of lower, middle, and upper tiers, how did it come into existence? The demon smiled faintly. It was as if he were reciting an ancient law. The rank of an ancient deity is determined by the limits of his power. Then he began to explain in detail those ancient deities who perish before attaining their complete form are reborn in the next era as lower-tier entities. Those who are destroyed just before the arrival of the end times become middle-tier deities in the next era. His voice suddenly grew heavy. And those who survive to enter the end times, those who contend for the throne of the God King, are reborn in the next era as high-tier ancient deities. Upon hearing this, Lufan fell completely silent for a few moments. Images of ancient wars began to coalesce within his mind. Then he spoke slowly. So, if I am understanding this correctly, the divine bone was likely slain in his previous life before he could achieve full awakening. His gaze turned grave. And you, at least you succeeded in attaining your true form? He continued his train of thought. Meanwhile, the sacred mountain and the corpse god, in their battle for the throne of the God King, drove the entire world toward destruction. Pausing for a moment, he asked again, so, was the God King of the previous era actually the corpse god? But the very next instant, another question arose in his mind. He asked directly, and one more thing, are you truly immortal? Do you survive through every era? A strange, almost eternal glint appeared in the demon's eyes. Then, in a calm voice, he replied, yes. When all living beings have been devoured, we bring about the end of the world. We unleash the great cataclysm. There was a terrifying certainty in his voice. Everything is erased. Mountains, oceans, civilizations, life itself. Nothing remains. Then he revealed the ultimate truth. And when a new era begins, we return, once again, at the very same places where we met our end the last time. His words continued to echo in the air as if he were not merely a person, but rather the herald of an immutable law of the universe. Lufan pondered for a while, then he asked another question. So, apart from you, no one else can enter another era? His gaze sharpened. And those places where you were killed, those sites that serve as the foundation for the resurgence of your previous incarnations? Do you know where the rest of the ancient gods met their end? The demon remained silent for a few moments. Then, in a low voice, he replied, no. We do not fully comprehend the extent of our power's influence. His voice was deep and enigmatic. Precisely estimating how far our residual power transforms the surrounding regions is no easy task. Then he began to elaborate further. But Those places where countless mysterious realms exist are, in truth, locations possessing exceptionally high-level dimensional boundaries. A strange glint appeared in his eyes, and each one of them then falls under the influence of a specific ancient god. Lufan's brows furrowed slightly. Meanwhile, the demon continued speaking. Our remaining power transforms these realms. New life forms are born within them, and in the mysterious realms that lie even deeper, more secluded than the rest, exceptionally powerful magical beings come into existence. His tone grew even heavier. Once we fully awaken, we will reclaim the power we lost in the previous era with astonishing speed. Hearing this, Lu Fan sank deep into thought. Suddenly, it was as if scattered pieces within his mind had clicked into place. A spark of realization flashed in his eyes. So, it wasn't that an ancient god had suddenly launched an attack on the far north. The truth was something else entirely. A high-level corpse god from the previous era had simply met his end right there. His heart grew heavy, almost imperceptibly. His mere presence, the power that lingered even after his death. It was this very force that had transformed the place into a high-level dimensional realm. Now everything began to make sense. That unknown deity had originally fallen at this very spot, and the power he left behind had become the true catalyst for that colossal dragon's extraordinary evolution. Lu Fan's eyes slowly narrowed. He realized this world was nothing like he had understood it to be until now. Every mysterious domain, every distorted dimensional boundary, every impossibly powerful creature, perhaps, they were all merely the shadows cast by the corpses of ancient deities.